I've thought about this moment more times than I can count, quite honestly. Not just the race, but everything it took for me to get here. The mornings when my legs were shot and tired before I even stood up. The runs where doubt was louder than my breath. The silent question I kept asking myself over and over again. Am I really ready for this? There were days I wanted to quit. Days I wondered if chasing something this hard was really worth it. But somehow I kept showing up. Not because I felt strong, but because I refused to let fear decide who I am and who I become. Houston isn't just some course for me on a map. It's a conversation with every version of myself that almost stopped. 26.2 miles to find out what happens when you don't run from the things that are hard. This is my debut.
Let's go, Quentin! Let's go, Quentin! You got half a mile left, buddy. Let's go! Push! Push!
Oh, Father, tell me, do we get what we deserve? Oh, we get what we deserve. And where down we go, 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 go. Oh, where down we go, 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 go. So where down we go, 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 go. Way down we go. Oh, you let your feet run wild. Thomas, come as we all go down. Yeah, but for the fall.
3 miles in the books, 7:52 pace, average heart rate, 113 beats per minute. So nice aerobic run. The run and the walking at the expo will be pretty much all the activity that I'll be doing today. I'll do a little bit of mobility work, but I won't be moving around a ton. So it'll be me, my couch, a lot of water, and stuff in my face.
Do you dare to look me right in the eyes, yeah? Oh, 'cause say we run you down, down to the door. Yeah, someday we run you down, down till you fall. Oh, and they will run you down, down till you go. Yeah, till you can't grow no more. And where down we go, 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 go. Oh, where down we go, go, go. Say where down we go. Oh, 'cause say we run you down, down to your car. Oh, way down we go. Oh, baby, oh, baby, way down we go. Way down we go, 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 way down.
All right, guys, so we have French toast, we have some English muffins, peanut butter and banana, more English muffin, one slice of beef bacon, pasteurized eggs, a little bit of water, and some maple syrup for the carb load. It's about to go down. All right, I know all my runners out there are going to feel me on this, but To anyone who's new to the running space, you might be like, what in the world is this guy doing? Okay. Carbohydrates are super important. We know that for running. And when it comes to carb loading, you're just trying to get it in. So this may not look super appetizing. It is merely like 560 grams of potato and 1 pasture-raised egg. Okay, so nothing great here, but it'll get the job done. We're focused on fueling and not necessarily satiating feels or tastes right now. So we'll work about that tomorrow. But yeah, 560 grams of potatoes and a pasture-raised egg. All right, I'm out.
All the days we were together, to all the time we were apart of each other's lives, heart to heart. And so I had a late arrival, so we never saw the start of each other's lives, heart to heart, heart to heart, heart to heart. Heart to heart, heart to heart. No, it seems so quick and easy, sentimentally assumed, walking parallels. To heart, to all the days we were together, to all the time we played a part in each other's lives, heart to heart. Heart to heart, heart to heart, heart to heart, heart to heart.
Let's go, Quentin! Let's go, Quentin! You got a half a mile left, buddy. Let's go. Push. Push.
Heart to heart. Heart to heart. Heart to heart.
All right, guys, it is official. We are official. I can officially call myself a marathoner. I am going to try my best to condense this into the most easily digestible account of events as humanly possible. But everything pretty much went to plan, guys. And we ran a debut 2 hour, 50 minute, 37-second official chip time and an unofficial time of 2:49.36. And yeah, I couldn't be more proud. And here is the hardware to prove that we did that. All right, super nice medal. And yeah, we are marathon finishers, and we debuted a 250. Let's talk about it. All right, so first things first, many of you know that the goal was 2 hours 48 minutes for my debut marathon. And I think when you do these hard things in life, you have to kind of conceptualize, you know, what's important, right? The glass half full perspective, if you will. So having different goals for your marathon, half marathon, or just heck, life in general is very important. It's important we keep the main thing, right? The main goal was to finish first and foremost, right? To finish, to be able-bodied, walk away from the race, not be completely wrecked. And like, that's goal number one, right? And then, you know, when you race, you kind of want to have or sprinkle in incremental goals, you know, like a 248 or whatever your debut marathon or marathon goal may be. So let's talk about how the race was structured, the good, the bad, the ugly, all that good stuff. All right, so for those who don't know, when you have really big races, the race event tends to put people in corrals. And the reason they do this is because they don't want to have a bunch of people bunched up or have faster runners trying to navigate through slower runners, et cetera, et cetera. So the way it works is, you know, the elite runners and the fast runners or sub-elite runners will go out first, followed by everyone else. And Houston was no different. So you got the A corral, B corral, C corral, D corral, and E corral. I do not believe there was an F corral, but if I'm wrong, somebody let me know in the comment section. And I was scheduled to run in the A corral. So typically, in order to be in the front of a corral for a big race, you have to submit a verifiable race time. So the organizers, so people that put the race together, will typically go out and verify that the link that you submitted is an actual link and it's not just fluff. And then they will, you know, bless you with whatever corral you're put in. And I was in the front corral, the A corral. So my training partners that I run with were mostly in the A corral, but there was one training partner that I have named Brand, shout out, what's up B, who doesn't race a ton, so he was scheduled for the B corral. Now, let's just throw this out there right now. He is not a B corral racer or a B corral runner. It's just that he didn't have a bunch of times to submit. So, you know, they basically had to go off of his training data. And because of that, they put him in a B corral. Now, these big races are heavily monitored and the security is next level. So when it's time to go into your corral, they pretty much check your bib to make sure that it has the appropriate alphanumeric in front of it before letting you in. And true to form, that's exactly what happened. So as we approached the A corral, you know, they checked my bib, they let me through, and then they obviously didn't let him through because he had a B on it. So he and I talked at the gate very briefly, and we decided that, you know, I'd go and I'd run with the B corral, which is immediately behind the A corral. And, you know, this is my boy. We trained together. We had the same goal. We talked the night before about running in tandem. So it all made sense. We knew that we probably had to navigate some runners through the A corral to kind of get seated where we wanted to be. So point of reference, the A corral is typically a fast corral, but it's also relative to age. So imagine a person that's 60 years old. Well, relative to their age, they could be running a 7-minute, 7:30 or 8-minute pace. And that is very fast for someone who's 60 years old. So they would be in the A corral, but they would be in the back of A corral, right? So kind of imagine, you know, your sub 6-minute runners are in the front, you know, then you have everybody in between, and then you have everybody on the back end who may be running, you know, 7 minutes plus. So even though we were in the B corral, we still would have had to navigate through, you know, the back end of the A corral all the way through the 3:15 group, the 3-hour group, the 2:55 group, et cetera, et cetera. So you're talking about more than 1,000 people, you know what I mean, that we'd have to navigate through. So we kind of knew that going, you know, into the race. So we pretty much settled with the fact that, hey, we're going to have to weave through a lot of people to kind of get to where we need to be to have a shot at our 248 goal. So once the race started, you know, the elites went out, you know, sub-elite, A group, etc. And then they basically walked us, you know, in a very tight line all the way up to a breaking point where they broke the rope and they let us through. And that's when the race started. So once we crossed the chip timer, you know, it was on. The goal was to stay anywhere between 6:25 and a 6:30 pace, and just to maintain that towards the back end of the race, and then kind of send it from there. But again, that first mile, as you'll see when we talk about the stats, I'll show you the stats, it was just a lot of people. So we were weaving through people left and right. We did a really good job. I think we ended up clipping like a 6:37 on the first mile. So it was slower than where we wanted to be, but I was confident that we could make up that time somewhere in the race, and we, inevitably did. But yeah, I mean, we were weaving. If I had to give it a number, I'd say at least 1,000 runners. At least 1,000 runners that we had to, weave in between, and then we were trying to hit tangents and all this other stuff. So the race was a little herky-jerky, kind of chaotic at the beginning, but we got through it. Once we got to about mile 2 or so, the race started to kind of open up for us just a little bit, but we were still navigating runners. Again, people are feeling good, people are running fast, maybe faster than they should be at that early in the race. So it's just a lot of people that we had to get through. I'd say we had a real breaking point around the 5K mark is when it really started opening up for us. And then we kind of got to test our race legs a little bit. And then, we just kind of, kept the flow. We kept it, pretty even splits. We were just in a groove. We weren't too all over the place, and we didn't get too crazy. So we kept it in. We would check in with each other here and there. All right, let's go over some of the stats real quick. Mile 1 was a 6:37. Mile 2 was a 6:28, 6:25, 6:26, 6:26, 6:21, 6:22, 6:24, 6:26, 6:29, 6:25, 6:24, 6:30, 6:22, 6:29, 6:25, 6:26, 6:28, 6:33, 6:26. Let's back up just for a second. So in between that mile 19 and 20, they talk about the inevitable wall. I will say this. I definitely noticed a little bit of pushback from my body at mile 19 and 20. And I think a lot of that is because, when we train our long runs, a lot of it is done at that 20 mile, marker or portion of running. And because of that, I think my body was just like, okay, what are we doing? So I had to really make a decision at that point. Hey, do we pull back, get more conservative, or do we stay on pace? And obviously I made the decision to stay on pace, but it definitely was a gut check in that moment. So mile 19 and 20 was definitely an area or portion of the race where I noticed some significant pushback from my body. And then, I just had to, push through from there. But anyways, continuing, mile 21 was a 6:30, mile 22, 6:27, mile 23 was 6:29, mile 24 was 6:31. And then, we hit a 6:42, 6:38. And then we came in, at a 6:15 pace as we rounded it out. So finishing stats, chip time, 2:50:37. My average pace via Garmin was a 6:28. Again, a little extra mileage there. If you race, you know what I'm talking about. But the race chip time up was like a 6:30, 6:31 pace. So, all in all, really well. Do I think there were portions of the race where I could have gone a little faster and not been so conservative or not pulled out the pedal? Sure. Did the early portion of the race kind of maybe create, some early lags that we could have made up to, reach our time? Sure. And when you really look at the stats, we were on pace to go sub 2:49, right? So 2:48 and change would have been ideal. And we were on pace for that. Again, just the ebbs and the flows of the race. And I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer here, because at the end of the day, it was my very first marathon, and I cannot be more impressed with myself and happy with the result. But I'm just kind of giving some, insight as to what could have gone better to reach our initial goal of running 2:48. So did we get it? No, but were we very close? Yes. And am I happy? Absolutely. Overwhelmed with emotions. I'm not gonna share a lot to you. Your boy cried like 3 times, right? And I think it was just a culmination of putting a bunch of work together over a year. For those that don't know, I started my endurance running journey in January of 2025, right? Did I run before? Sure, but I was doing no more than, I'm not gonna get a number, but it was very minimal running, and it was really just to, kind of get some cardio during the week when I used to primarily lift weights. And so when I transitioned in January 2025, I transitioned to become basically full-time in the endurance space, something I had never done. And so basically this result is a culmination of an entire year of work that I put in. So you can only imagine the emotions were super, super high. Not only that, I had a ton of people that were rooting for me on the course. Shout out to Brooks, crazy support. You know, I had people that I knew that ran the half marathon that were cheering for me. My buddy Matt, my buddy Larry. I mean, there were so many people. I don't want to name everybody because I don't want to miss anybody. I don't want to leave anybody out, rather. But just know that there were a ton of people that were out there cheering me. Oh, my buddy Omar. I just said I'm not going to name people, and I continue to name people. The whole Good Guys Run Club. Everybody, right? So I just want to give acknowledgement to people who really were, you know, cheering me on and rooting me on during this race. And, you know, I may have not said much on the course. I gave most people a thumbs up or a nod or a, you know, salute or something like that, just because I was just in the zone. I was trying to maintain my focus and conserve a little bit of energy as best as possible. But just my family, oh man, like, yeah, wave of emotions. I know I'm kind of all over the place right now in this portion of the video, but you know, I just want to make sure that I'm giving credit where credit is due, because there were a lot of people that were supporting me during this journey and during this race. So the community support was next level. The event, best event I've ever been to, bar none. Like, Chevron Houston did an amazing job. So let's talk about expectations versus reality. I think going into these big efforts, you know, whether it be in training or race day, you know, we have these expectations and lofty goals, right? And I think it's important that we find that silver lining, that glass half full perspective when it comes to stuff like this, especially something like a debut marathon where you've never ran 26 miles before in your life, right? You've never ran 26 miles for the pace that you're running. And that's another thing. Let's take a little break for a second. I think the biggest thing that I was worried about was not the 26 miles, but it was holding race pace for 26 miles. There is so much doubt that flows in during training. I swear the week leading up to the race, I thought I was losing fitness. I thought I was tapering too hard. All of these different ideas were being, you know, inserted mentally. And I mean, it was self-imposed, but it really started to play with my mind. It's a testament that, you know, if you do the training, it will show up on race day and you will, you know, be fine. Yeah, just that expectation versus reality, and just understanding that, you know, have lofty goals, but understand that there's going to be some variance in things as you continue to move forward, especially into the race. So training prepared me for the vast majority of this race. I don't think there was any portion of training that I'm like, man, I should have changed this or I should have done that. I can't say that, right? Because we debuted at 250. Like, how would I be able to authentically come before you and say something like that? It just would be nonsense at the end of the day. So I think that we hit training goals as prescribed as best as possible to set us up for this race. Going forward, will I tweak some things? Will I change some things to get better and more efficient? Absolutely. But do I think leading up to the race, I did everything in my power? Absolutely. I mean, I was averaging we're talking about going from, you know, not a lot of mileage at all. I mean, I'm talking like 10 miles a week. If I was running 10 miles a week prior to getting in endurance space, I'd be shocked. I do not think I was even doing that. We talked about going from being primarily a weightlifter and doing very moderate running to being completely woven into the endurance space. You know, running 70 miles, you know, a week on average, you know, for like, 8 weeks or something like that, hitting peak week of like 82, 83 miles. That paid dividends, guys. Like, that gave me a lot of confidence. And it just worked. So the training went how the training should have gone, and I got the result that I got based off of the training. So, you know, I learned a lot during training. It was my first ever marathon block. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? It went well. How do we define success? Is there a barometer for success? Yes. I think our barometer for success is definitely individual. It is not a comparison game. Now, every athlete that I've ever known, I'm a former athlete. I guess I'm technically kind of still an athlete, but every former athlete that I know, and even when I used to play ball back in the day, the comparison game was prevalent, right? It was inevitable. It's how you know, tested your unique abilities against someone else, you know, mentally. And so you see someone doing something and you kind of want to replicate it, or you want to do it better, right? Than that person. And so running is no different. I just caution people, and again, I'm no one to tell you what to do, but I do caution people to not compare too much. I do it every now and again, and I have to make sure that I get out of that space, because it can become unhealthy to a degree. There's healthy competition, then there's unhealthy competition, right? And so our individual success should be based off of our individual performance in the past, right? So my next race is not going to be necessarily based on something someone else does. I don't know their training regimen. I don't know their background. They could have been a cross-country runner since they were 5 years old. Their aerobic ability is ridiculous. Who knows? I don't know. But I'm comparing myself not against that person, but against the person that I was in my previous race, right? And are we getting better? Are we getting incrementally better physically, mentally, spiritually, etc.? Not just a physical game, it's also a mental game. Sometimes the clock is not going to be indicative of what we did in training, right? What if it's raining? What if it's super windy? Or let's say, God forbid, you get an injury and you miss a portion of your training, right? There are a myriad of things that can go wrong in a prep that we should just be focused on. In my opinion, we should be focused on how are we getting better as individuals, individual athletes, individual people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So success looks different for everyone. I believe that my race was successful not only because I had a heck of a time, but it was a success because I was able to bring some type of notoriety to the space of running. I was able to, shed light on how running can better your life. I was able to interact with the community. I was able to share smiles and laughs and tears and hugs, the embrace of strangers, right? There's more that goes into it than just the running aspect of things. So success for me looks different than success for you. And your success looks different to somebody else's success. So I believe it was successful in a myriad of ways, and I'm super excited to have the opportunity to train again and to do it again in due time. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much wraps up the video. Hopefully it wasn't too long-winded. I appreciate the love as always. I always end the video saying, hook your boy up with a like, with a comment, with a subscribe. I'm just a regular dude with a lot of lofty goals and at a later stage in life, and just excited to be able to bring smiles and encouragement and motivation to people all across the world, because I think that's pretty cool. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about the video. Let me know if you have an upcoming race. Let me know if there's a race you think I should look into. Let me know about your recent results in a race. I want to know it all, right? Community aspect is super important, especially in the fitness space. So peace, love, and happiness, people. Be good, be kind. Boy out.